Welcome, everybody. It's been about a week and a half since we last got together for Pop Culture Therapy. I'm Advent Nebula.
I'm Cruellica Kain. Welcome back, and thank you very much for tuning in to our podcast.
Now, it's been kind of a little bit of a weather situation out here. That's why we didn't get an episode out last week. We do want to try and make this a weekly podcast.
So if you have any topics or any ideas that you want, please don't hesitate to shoot us a message on social media. I'm on Twitter at Cruellica Kain.
I'm on Twitter at Advent Nebula, PlayStation Network, Advent_Nebula.
Pretty much everything for me is Cruellica as well. And you can also leave comments on our YouTube channel for this, and we'd be happy to take it over. So our formats for all of our podcasts are going to be the first portion of it, probably 10-15 minutes, unless there's a lot going on. It's just going to be kind of recapping different things that have happened in pop culture over the week or 2 weeks, or any of the shows that we've been watching. Then the second half, we will focus on a topic of either our choice or yours. For instance, this week, we are going on the topic of friendship, the one I've promised a while ago. And we have a great title for it.
Yeah, it's called Friendship is Not Magic. We'll go into that a little bit later in the podcast on why we picked this topic this week. But let's just say there's been drama in one of our other friends' communities that kind of led us to actually change the format that we originally intended for this podcast to be.
Exactly. So starting out this last week and a half there's been a little bit going on because we've had the new anime series that have started. Yeah. And most of them started around the 7th.
There were a couple that started a little earlier, and then Boogie Pop, which is the one that I'm mainly watching this time for this season, is one that's kind of getting a little funky release, I just found out, too. Its first 2 episodes were aired together, and then 10 through 13 out of its 18-episode run, since it's only going to be running for 13 weeks, are going to be aired together.
Really?
Yes. The first 3 episodes covered the first book, so they're going to go through the first 6 books in an 18-episode span.
You know, that would have made sense if they did that for Vampire Hunter D's actual books, too. Just having them in those segments versus doing, like, one-off movies once in a while.
Still don't know when the next ones are going to get done because they're adapting books 9 and 10, which was a 4-part book.
Oh, yeah. That's a hard book to read. But with Boogie Pop and others, I watched Boogie Pop Phantom when it came out as an anime in the 90s. I watched the live-action Boogie Pop and others, which was just like a small partition of pretty much the first 2 episodes.
First 3, actually. The Boogie Pop and Others live-action movie is what the entirety of the first 3 episodes of the Boogie Pop and Others anime covers.
Okay. So it'll be interesting to see a little bit more. I have to admit, when we were watching the first 2 episodes, Advent, Kaiji Okami, they were both excited, and they were naming characters right when they popped on screen. Both myself and Silver Quill were like, who? I guess we don't know the world as much as you do, but they were fangasming over the show, which was pretty awesome because you do it more than Kaiju does.
Yeah, and
he's more reserved.
I've read the first 6 light novels, which is all that's been released in the U.S. 7 Seas now is re-releasing them because they've been out of print for a few years in North America, and they promised to bring out Post Volume 6 around later this year, early next year. So it looks like we'll get the entire 19 light novels here in the U.S. within the next few years.
That will be really nice, especially to have the books to actually read, because as we all know with anime, it either only covers a small partition of it because there's so much else that comes in with a book, or it covers barely anything at all and just creates its own universe.
And with a series like this where everything's told out of sequential order, this will be nice to have that there too. Mm-hmm. So the anime is telling it just like the books are out of order, but kind of making it so it's easier for people who haven't read the books actually understand what's going on.
Well, exactly, because people who are not comfortable or familiar or even enjoy that out of order format, which I will admit original anime did that. It was so out of order, and when I first watched it, I got lost, and I enjoyed it, but there were times where it was quite a bit of a challenge, where when you have other series that go in that sequential path, it's like, oh, it does offer an element of creativity, though.
And then the original series that came out in the late 90s, its placing is really weird too, because it's not in any of the light novels, but it's still canonical, and it takes place between the first and third book, because the second book actually takes place after the third book.
Once again, Boogie Pop is crazy.
Yeah.
For me, I actually have to admit this season, and I'm not usually a winter season fan when it comes to anime. I like my little sprinkles, but I'm not one who commits, because usually the winter season's the hardest for me. But I have a few shows I enjoyed the first episodes of, and I'm looking forward to watching the next episodes. They're already out. I just got so busy last week with work, I haven't watched them yet. And that's Promised Neverland. I know you've read the manga, which
yes,
I have not.
I will not say anything because I don't know how far this is going to go, and with it being Aniplex, I don't know if they're going to do a little Blue Exorcist original ending stuff during the second half.
Well, I know Silver Quill mentioned that was a heart tugger, and being that he's kept up with it, I'm kind of intrigued, because he's very, very hard to please when it comes to certain stories.
Yeah, like My Hero Academia is just something he flat out just loves. So I was kind of surprised that Promised Neverland, another series, Dr. Stone, or two that he really enjoys reading.
Oh, absolutely. Another series that I'm watching, basically because it's the most adorable thing in the world, is My Roommate is a Cat. I don't know what it is about enjoying anime series about people who are recluses, but maybe it just proves that I really am an inside person. But we have a recluse who is an author, and this cat adopts him, because if you know anything about cats, you don't adopt or own a cat. They own you. And the other series that I'm watching is Kaguya-sama Love is War. And that's mainly because I enjoyed the manga, and it's about two characters. Kaguya is the female lead. I can't remember the male lead. Just because there's so many names in my head. But they they really do adore and love each other, but they always constantly try to outwit each other on having them say, I love you first. So they can be like the figurative winner who didn't back down. And it's kind of, think of Panty and Stocking. You know how it's like a segmented episode where you have like 10 minutes, because there are multiple stories in one? That's exactly how the anime is going to be set up.
Oh, that's good. And there's only one other show I'm watching this season. Isekai anime again. But for me with Isekai, they gotta be like Konosuba, have some kind of ridiculous premise going on with it for me to enjoy it, or be like an Escaflowne, or a series like The 12 Kingdoms that got this really serious tone, overarching narrative that just, you don't know where it's going to go until it gets to that point. But the Rising of the Shield Hero, I'm really liking this one because the main protagonist is not OP. He's weak.
Really?
Yes. And he ends up, when he gets into the world, when his class becomes Shield Hero, he's disappointed when his friends get the Archer Hero, the Knight Hero, the Lancer Hero. And he's stuck with this, and his partner is a little girl that can barely use magic and fight with a sword.
Oh my god, that's like watching the anime. You can't pick up girls in...
Why can't I pick up girls in a dungeon?
Which I have to admit is the most ridiculous but funniest anime ever. So I'll have to watch that. Is it serious? Is it comedic?
It's both.
Oh, nice. Okay. Because that's the hard part when you have a premise like that. Because I was a little afraid when I watched Sword Art Online, and I will admit, I'm one of the few people who is like a diehard fan. I watched the first 2 seasons, and I'm sticking with it until the end. Even if it goes down, I'm going to try to stick with it.
Congratulations. It's almost halfway through. It's 52 episode run of the new season.
I know. And I'm going to give it a shot because I give way too many crappy things are shot. But when I first started watching the first season of SAO, I was a little afraid that it was going to go this comedic route, because it started like super, super serious, and then it started gear shifting a little bit, and I was like, please just have a blend. Because with a concept like that, I didn't want a dot hack clone, but I wanted something that would be good. Yeah.
And that's really it for what I've been watching anime-wise. Other than that, spent since pretty much 2 weeks before Christmas through to this week, Tales of Berseria. I have completed everything but one last side quest after the post game to get the complete story. So I plan on getting a review out as soon as I get that done.
I feel so disappointed. I'm such a Tales fan, but I don't have the commitment level you do when it comes to Tales. All I can do right now, because I'm so busy with work, is watch other people play video games. Like, I anticipate coming next week, because I think Resident Evil is this week.
I came out today, actually.
Oh, so this weekend I'll most likely be watching Kaiji no Kami play Resident Evil, which I don't mind, because I enjoy watching.
Yeah. When with Resident Evil 2 out with its remake, he'll probably want to go through the first game unless he's already completed his run on it before he gets into it again.
Did.
So yeah, he'll be playing through Resident Evil 2.
Yeah, he's mad because he played the game on the wrong mode and it was too easy for him. And I'm like, you haven't played the game in like 6 years? It's too easy? Alright. That's compared to me, I'm like, oh my god, this is so hard. Make me run.
And I'll play RPGs on normal or hard mode, because easy mode is only something I want to go through on a Shin Megami game.
Okay, RPGs, yes. I have to play them on at least normal, because if I try them on easy, I'm bored. Because there's too much grinding that has to be done, and doing it on easy just takes way too much fun out of it. But I don't know, oh yes, if I get a Switch sometime soon, I will be getting No More Heroes 3. I know it's not getting the greatest reviews, but I do like Suda's games.
And from what people have been saying that have actually played the games, if you're a Suda fan and you like Killer is Dead, this one's up the alley of Killer is Dead. And ironically enough, Killer is Dead was originally planned to be the sequel to No More Heroes before Suda decided to go a different route and create No More Heroes 2, so it sounds like this was kind of the same situation, but he ended up just rolling with it.
Well, exactly. And I've been a big fan of all of his games. I have Lollipop Chainsaw. I have Shadow of the Damned. I don't have Killer is Dead, but I can easily borrow it from Bloodborne Chrysalid. Craziest name ever.
Yeah, or I think I saw on Amazon for like $15 for a used copy physical disc.
That's not bad. Yeah. I'll have to get that. But, so, the other piece of, well, there's a couple of pieces of news, pop culture-wise. One is actually, it's anime related, which I think is actually going to be very cool. Dragon Ball Super Broly was number 3 in the U.S. as the top movie of the weekend for this past weekend, making, I think, about $70 million.
Yeah, I think that was right. But I have to pull up the Kotaku link to see how much it was, but it was somewhere in that range. Yeah, it was about $70 million. Number 3 at the box office over the weekend. And what's really amazing, I think this was only on about 1,000 screens nationwide.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't like widely released, but it was it shows, as I stutter, the impact of anime still in the American culture.
And Dragon Ball is just become a pop culture icon anymore in North America, and you're seeing also a resurgence of it not only in Japan, North America, but worldwide too.
Oh yeah, for Dragon Ball, it's always been one of those series that pretty much since the 90s, it's always been prevalent, even if it disappears for a few years because of contracting and all of that fun stuff until it's re-released. And I have to admit, for me, I was never a Broly fan. I know there's a shit ton of hype for Broly. I really didn't care for his character.
I never did either. This movie did something that helped it out and made Broly an actual character.
And I have to admit, Vegeta, once again, stole the show for me because I've always been a super, super, super fan of Vegeta. Because assholes, it works. But watching them do the fusion again...
Priceless.
Oh my god. I do have to admit, though, I always thought it was pronounced Gogeta.
I've always thought it was the opposite in how they actually pronounce it in the movie.
Gogeta, yeah. Which, it was like, fine. I don't know why I always called it Gogeta, but I did. So it was nice. Yeah. I think because Gogeta makes sense. Yeah. I just never put it.
And for me, Frieza stole the movie. There's one point for anybody who has not seen the movie I am not going to talk about, but Frieza just... And I haven't made the comment that got some people to laugh in the theater, like, Frieza, use a dick.
Yeah, I do love the tag out that happened.
Yes.
It kind of reminded me of, like, well, when I was a kid, I was a huge wrestling fan. I did everything wrestling. And it kind of reminded me of when you had that unexpected tag out, like, your turn, and throwing the person into the ring that was not intending to fight.
That's exactly what it was like.
It was so brilliant. And I don't want to spoil exactly what happened because it's such an awesome scene to have. And I actually have to admit, well, not too often do I go out of my way to want to watch anime movies in theaters more than once because I know they'll have a fairly quick turnaround to disc. I actually really want to see this again.
Yeah. We only have a few more days left to run if we want to, but I think I may end up seeing it before it drops out of theaters.
That's what I'm thinking. I do have to admit, though, Kaiji Okami probably mentioned this in his Quickly review, but one thing that we both agreed on is the dub version, because that's what we had seen. Because I don't even know, are they have
They are not going to have a subtitle release. Toei said they would not have a subtitle release of this movie wide in theaters in North America.
And that makes sense, but... the sound mixing for the English dub, it kind of reminded me of a few times like Interstellar.
Yeah, where you had the dub and the music over each other, and you could tell it was probably a rushed mixing because there was only a 4-week span between when it came out in Japan and here.
Well, exactly. So I can understand why, but that was, I would say, my one detractor. The other pop culture thing that happened today, well, it's not related really to anime, but because we do go see movies, they released the Oscar nominations. And as my loving husband made the comment, did the Oscar nomination team only see 8 movies throughout the year?
Yeah, Bad Times at El Royale,
which
Crazy
I was
Rich Asians, both got snubbed.
Well, I can understand Crazy Rich Asians. I love the movie, but I can understand why it probably did because the whole rom-coms have always... It's kind of like Tom Cruise. They've always been snubbed at the Oscars. Or you can even think of it like that one soap opera lady. Can't remember her name.
I can't think of her either right now.
I know nobody will even care, but she was
19 times nominated for the Daytime Emmys.
And then won, like the last time she was nominated.
Yeah. But of all the movies I got nominations that I did not see A Star Is Born, and I did not see The Favorite. I don't even know what The Favorite's about.
No, I honestly had never heard of it. And I do want to see A Star Is Born, but to be fair, I've seen the earlier versions.
Yeah.
So I know it would just be new because it's Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga, and I like both of them. But beyond that, I was happy to see Black Panther nominated, but do I think it's the best comic book related movie out there to be nominated? While it was innovative and impactful and it did give a good message, there have been so many other comic book movies I think were more deserving.
Yeah.
And didn't get nominated.
Spike Lee, though, finally got a Best Director's nomination.
For
BlacKkKlansman.
Oh, yes, BlacKkKlansman.
Which surprises me he didn't get nominated for Boys in the Hood back in the day.
I'm not surprised because he's always been super, super, super vocal about his opinions about culture, which I don't blame him. He's always had a great vision. I've never been a consistent huge fan of Spike Lee.
Yeah, Spike Lee.
But Boys in the Hood was good. God, what other movies? He's done so many movies that I know I've seen. I can't remember them all. But Black Klansman was nice because it really hit, I think, compared to a lot of his other movies, a literal snapshot into what's still going on today, but what took place in the 70s.
Yep. And then another period movie from the 70s, Roma, director Astolfo Korzlin. It's about him growing up in Mexico City, semi-autobiographical, but told from the perspective of a maid. And it's at a time when the drug cartels were taking power into the Mexican government at the time. It's on Netflix, but it did get a small theater run before it hit Netflix. I enjoyed the movie. Though, for you folks out there who don't like subtitles, you're going to have to bear with it.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's, for a lot of really good movies, you kind of have to take that hit. But I'm not one who watches the Oscars, and truthfully, I don't base my movie viewing on the Oscars, because if I did that, we'd be watching, I think, like I said, 8 movies.
Yeah.
But I kind of like to keep an eye on the Oscars so I can hope and pray going forward that a movie like Suicide Squad is never provided an Oscar.
Yeah. Yeah, let's hope that never happens again.
So, I think that's all I have myself for pop culture this week.
Yeah, that's been the biggest stuff that's gone on this week. I'm really looking if there's anything else really big that's gone on. Because the only other topic I really seen right now, not really something that I want to go into, because there's plenty of other people on Twitter and YouTube who have voiced their opinions on it.
Oh, yeah. I think the only thing I'm going to say on an uncomfortable topic, not getting too far involved in, because, like you said, everybody's voicing their opinions, and I'm not going to be in the midst of that, good, bad, or otherwise, is have respect for others. And this actually is a great segue to our topic, but going off of that, have respect for others. If you think you might be doing something that makes another person uncomfortable, either by their facial expressions or by their attitude, back off. And on the flip side, if somebody's doing something that makes you feel uncomfortable, say something. Don't just sit there like a robot and think it's okay just because they may either be somebody in a position of celebrity status or a position of authority. Because unfortunately, as we're going to get into with our topic, both sides are not going to mesh perfectly to understand the issue going on either side. But so that's kind of all I have to say in that regard. Otherwise, I'm not going to pick a side. I'm not going to choose a side because it's not my place and I wasn't there.
Yeah.
And that's all I can really say. And this can go for any community. Anime, Brony, Trekkie, Star Wars, what have you. We're all assholes. We're all good people all at the same time. So get over it.
Exactly.
Alrighty. So on to the topic at hand for our episode. Friendship is not magic.
Yeah, you can't just expect a friendship to happen with a snap of a finger.
Friendships take time, effort, work, tears, blood, more figuratively than literally, because if your friends make you bleed, they're not probably your friends unless the situation calls for it.
Yeah. I will admit, some of my closest friends, and this is just because we're guys, have actually gotten into fistfights with each other.
Okay, guys, I will say, are probably more apt from my experiences of getting in the fistfights. Not saying that girls don't. I was always a tomboy when I was younger until I learned the benefits of guys. And that's a whole nother topic. We won't get into that. But at the same time, friendships are not easy. And there's different types of friendships. I really want to focus on the 3 core types of friendships. And that is going to be essentially, because I have a whole different script, but we decided to change it a little bit on friends, fair weather friends.
Yep.
I know that's not a term people use much anymore.
It's more used as these are more of acquaintances just because of the way social media has kind of changed the landscape on friendship.
Or they're friends that use each other for their own mutual gain. They're acquaintances is a good term for it as well, because you know each other, you may know a little bits about each other, but you're using each other for an end result.
A good example of this is your friends that you have in your workplace environment.
A good example of this in Dragon Ball is Goku and Frieza.
Oh, yeah.
And I would say more on, actually no, on both sides. Yeah. Even with his naivete, Goku is still used Frieza for his own gain.
Yeah.
Another type of friendship is the friends that you trust, or the friends that you can rely on. So friends that know a bit more about you, they are the ones that you can rely on, but obviously you wouldn't rely on them for like life-threatening situations, for financial situations, you rely on them to be a friend when you have nothing better to do.
These, for myself, these are friends that I've known since high school, still talk on off with, hang around with, but I never got that true extended bond with them because they come in and out of my life at times.
A good example of this would be, even though it's probably molded since then, would be Goku and Tien. Yeah. And I'm using a lot of Dragon Ball references just because there's a lot of things that can go along with that. We're going to use other animes and other shows as we go along, but the focal point is going to be that. The final friendship type that you have, and this is why I say friendship is not magical, is the friends you would die for. Not necessarily literal, but I've seen cases where that's the extent of where it goes. And these are the friends that know everything about you. Probably things that they really don't want to know. Like poor Evans has heard many things about girl stuff that I'm surprised he actually still wants to talk to me and still can look a girl in the eye knowing what's going on, even at his current age. These are the ones that you will drop literally anything and everything for and do whatever you have to.
Like when Silverquill had his appendix removed, we dropped everything we had going on that day.
Oh yeah, I thought I was going to get fired from my job because I was like, I gotta go. He's in the hospital and I have no idea what's going on.
But these are also the same friends that you can just talk anything to them about, but also you can give them the minuscule or most amount of grief about a certain thing and they're still going to have your back.
Oh, like how you decided to tell Silverquill that he was actually literally turning silver in his hair?
Yeah.
You asshole.
Yeah, I said that to him the other night and it's just because he was giving me, I can't remember what the line was, but I'm like, oh, hey, look, you're going a little gray back there.
And then when this lovely individual leaves, Silverquill then just runs up to me and sticks his head literally in my face and is like, am I really going gray? I'm like, oh my god. So friends like that, the ones that you die for, to be fair, they're going to be the smallest group. If you had to look at them in size, fair weather, acquaintances type friends, they're going to be the largest group. Pretty much almost anybody you talk to could come into that pile. More often than not, they end up being work colleagues at the same time. For friends that you can trust, like you said, they're people you've known for years and years, and you just kind of come and go into each other's lives. You trust them because they've known so much about you from the past and going on. And then friends that you die for, as long as they're not Junko and Ashima, you're safe.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, if they're Junko and Ashima, they're not friends you die for. That's another topic for another day.
Yeah, we're going into Manson level territory at that point.
Yeah, don't go Manson family. Please don't go Manson family. A great example of friends you would die for, if we went first and foremost with Dragon Ball universe, Bulma and Goku.
Yeah. And for me, the one that I've always seen, Rey and Usagi in Sailor Moon.
Yes.
And I get to that one because just like with this group here, those two bicker at each other the same way our group bickers at each other.
Well, and that's the important thing of acknowledging with friendships. Because friends, no matter, when you get into that deeper level of a friendship, and it's something to be very conscientious of, is you're going to see people like Ami from Sailor Moon. She is a perfect example of modern day, and it's always been like this, but more people are prone and willing to recognize it in this day and era, of anxiety, depression. And so I noticed this back in the 90s when Sailor Moon first came out, but they tried to pull it back a little bit.
And it's because of the culture in America at the time. Mental health was just something that was taboo. It's a subject you don't want to talk about.
Well, exactly, because if your family member has mental health, they must be deficient in some way. But when they redid Crystal, or they redid the dub for the original anime for Sailor Moon, you actually got to have a voice actress play the character, and you got to have the script match a character who is going through that social anxiety and that fear of failure and that depression of not being good enough. Especially when you have friends like Usagi or Rei who are beautiful or much more extroverted or so many other things. And I know some people can argue and say, oh, Ami is just very introverted, which in the original dub, I agree. She was extremely introverted, which does do that. But when you go into the current dubs, or if you even go into the live action.
Yep.
And I'm not going to go into a full story about mental illness, because that's not really the point of this one. But friends you can trust may see it. Friends that you can die for will see it, they will respond to it, and they will try to uplift you. As you could see in many of the episodes of Sailor Moon, or even when you see in Dragon Ball, like for the Trunks saga for Dragon Ball Z, when Goku knew what was going to happen, he was more conscientious of what he needed to do to protect his friends and his family. Even though he knew he was going to die, which thankfully, spoiler alert, Goku doesn't die. And if you did not know that he died multiple times in the show, what have you been watching?
Yeah, Dragon Ball. It's the equivalent of calling in dead in DC Comics.
Exactly. But friendships, the three core things that you need to have for friendships are patience, understanding, and compassion. And
time is not something that's an essential ingredient ever in friendship. I mean, there's going to be times where you're not going to see your friends for weeks or months on end unless you actually have this tight-knit group that binds together. You're going to just have to accept that when you're getting into adult life. It's just the way things are. That's why you end up finding relationships with coworkers to go do stuff with and have those fair weather friends or acquaintances with.
And when you have friends that you can trust, like your high school friends or things like that, don't fear that they won't go beyond anything like that, because trust is something that we should all know is earned. It's not something that's freely given. It's not something that is easily recoverable if it's ever lost. It has to be earned and it has to be maintained. And that's why having friends that you can trust is valid as much as having friends you can die for. Both of those friends groups, as my grandfather always told me, when you become my age, and he was in his 60s at this point, he's like, you can count all of your true friends, and this doesn't include your spouse, you can count all of your true friends on one, maybe two hands. And he was talking about more so not just friends that are true, but friends that you die for. because obviously people change, people go different ways, and that's the reason I love Dragon Ball, is because look at the first episode. We start the series about 10 years after the end of Dragon Ball Z, or Dragon Ball Z ended about 10 years after, or started 10 years after Dragon Ball, roughly. That's why I'm putting in quotations even though you can't see it. Goku and Bulma have not seen each other in such a long period of time. Same thing with Krillin, same thing with Roshi. But the moment they converge back together,
it's the old times again.
It's the old times again. And with Tien, as he comes and goes, that's why he's a friend you can count on, but he's not the friend that you would die for.
And Yamcha's another example. He's one of those, is close, but he's in and out of the picture all the time at this point.
Exactly. And then you have Krillin, who literally does die for Goku, which helped him achieve his, not really his perceived goal, because it wasn't like he was planning to go Super Saiyan. Once again, spoiler alert, if you don't know what's going on by now, I'm really afraid that you don't know anything about Dragon Ball. But and that was actually one of the most powerful scenes in one of the longest arcs ever.
Yeah.
But it was such a powerful scene. You see Krillin working to protect Goku, even though Goku is hundreds times stronger.
And he just needed to give him that push just to get to that point, too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if any of you guys have ever played any of the Persona games from Persona 3 on, you know about the social link and confidant systems. Those are probably the best examples of every type of friendship you can have and just the interaction with the characters.
I agree with that. I actually really do, because it's hard to, and this is why it takes effort, because yes, you can meet a person, you can click super quick, but it takes effort to keep that click. It's kind of like being in a relationship with your significant other. I would say that's, personally in my experience, that's just as hard, if not harder at times. But yeah, that's a great example. I never thought of that. All of those Persona games, well, 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, just 3, 4, and 5, because the first two had the rumor system.
Yeah, but the social links, because you have to literally understand who you're talking to, understand how you're going to connect with them, because it's not just the right or wrong answer, it's how are you going to progress this further.
Yeah, it's all about how society is viewing you, or how those people view you based on actions you take. And that's true in real life, too. I mean, your coworkers, people that you've known for a long time from your outside group, they're going to have a different perspective of you. Your core friends, though, are going to see the flaws in you, and they're going to accept them.
Well, exactly. And the reason why we're focusing more so on the friends that you would die for, more so than the acquaintances, is because those are the ones that you're going to spend the most time on, and you're going to have to really figure it out. Because acquaintances, you're going to figure out fairly darn quickly if you're going to trust an acquaintance. Because I think you, Advent, when I first met you, you had a harder time differentiating between acquaintance and actual, like, true friend. Because you treated everyone equally.
Yep, and that kind of wore off by the time I got into my, I want to say, just out of my mid-20s.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's just like, okay, and this is just from the perspective of when I got into a management role and actually able to see things from a different light as well, kind of got me to be able to read people better and like, okay, I know I can trust them to do this job. And then it just kind of overflew into the friendship where I've now, these are acquaintances and these are friends that I really can trust, and then those are the people I can die for.
You know a good example of that, building a friendship you can die for, that you actually get to watch grow over a long period of time by this point? Togusa and Bato from Ghost in the Shell.
Yes, just, it doesn't matter which media it is in either, except for the first movie.
Well,
you see that just grow through standalone complex, and even with the new Rise, you can tell they've known each other for a bit, and the way they banter off each other.
Well, exactly. And if you go with the standalone complex, and if you haven't seen it, I'm not really going to spoil anything except for like the relationship, but I really do recommend watching it because it's an incredible show. It's aged very, very, very well comparatively to other shows.
Yeah, for a show that's getting almost 12 years old now, it really feels like it's fresh still when you watch it.
Oh, yeah. And so Togusa was a former cop, came on to Section 9. I always make a mistake between 8 and 9 sometimes. And comes on board. Bato has a lack of trust because in the Ghost in the Shell universe, most people have already had some kind of cybernetics put within them. Where Togusa is 100% natural human, no extra cybernetics. He is just a flat-out person.
The only thing he has is what everybody has to have as a cop in that universe, an implant in their brain for communication.
Exactly. And that's pretty much it. But that's so minor comparatively. But, so there's this lack of trust at first because in a world where there's so many people who are enhanced, how do you understand that? And they started off as like very severe acquaintances because they only used each other as they needed. But you actually watch the relationship develop, watch the trust build, and actually watch them that when you go later into the series as well as into the corresponding movies that relate somewhat to the standalone complex.
Yeah, Solid State Society one. They're the two main leads of the movie.
Oh yeah, and it's so fabulous to see it. And I do have to say that's another thing I like about Fairy Tale.
Oh yeah, the core 5 in that, you just see the friendship with
you
them.
do, and it starts out from nothing because none of them. It's not until Lucy comes on board
as kind of that cog to keep everything together, because Gray, Urza, and Nasu have a kind of working relationship where they just tolerate each other.
Yeah, they use each other because they have to, but you watch it develop over a long, long, long period of time, because I love the series, but you do watch it grow and you watch it develop. And that's, I have to say, while most people will say anime should not be a representation of the real world, you should not utilize anime as a barometer for many things, but I do have to say anime, in my opinion, should be used as a barometer for understanding basic social interactions and how friendships can develop.
Well, don't we always know from playing RPGs or watching anime, friendship saves the universe almost all the time?
Exactly, right? A good core friendship can take out evil in the minutes or in seconds or however you want. And a shitty friendship like Tekken Blade or Sayuki, which I love Sayuki, but their friendships.
The four of them just hate each other.
Oh my god. Or Attack on Titan. They, even though Mikasa and Eren are family, everybody else is out to use them. Obviously, Danganronpa, which, before we close out, I have to tell you a funny story for the world. Danganronpa is a perfect example of a friendship based on mutual use only.
Yeah, it truly is. When you play the games, watch the anime, it is. They are all just using each other for their own personal gain.
Exactly. So, if anybody tells you that anime cannot tell you how friendships work, they are lying. Obviously, shitty anime cannot tell you how friendships work, but really good anime stories, even something like Gurren Lagann or Kill la Kill, or even, well, I'm not a huge fan of it, I know it's good, Seven Deadly Sins.
Yeah.
They have really good dynamics of how friends interact, interconnect, interrelate. Yes, I wouldn't use it for how you should treat your regular life, because nobody has a regular life at any of those shows, but how dynamic human relationships are, it's so fascinating to watch. And that's the reason why I wanted to reference so many anime series.
If you actually want an anime that actually gives you a good idea on how the real world works with friendships, Working.
Oh,
it's
yes!
a prime example. I mean, I can relate to several characters in that show just because I've been through so many of those situations.
I can't remember her name, but I watched the first episode, and then you have this bubbly little girl come up to the manager, because the manager is like late 20s, and the bubbly little 16-year-old's like, "You're old." I'm like, "You're dead." Do not ever, and don't ever tell somebody they're old. That's just cruel. Even if we are old, please be nice. But overall, just like in anime, friendships take work. You have to have a lot of patience. Don't expect it to be easy. Think of Bulma if you've ever seen Dragon Ball, or if you've read the manga for Dragon Ball. My God, it's like raising a puppy to get Goku to be where he needs to be. For Sailor Moon, the amount of patience that Rei has to have, the amount of compassion that Ami has to have.
And just look at Minako. She ends up being the group mom for everybody.
Exactly. And that's the understanding. There's Minako and Makoto. It takes work. My God, there are times I felt bad for Mamoru. I'm like, I can feel his eyes rolling in frustration. And the same thing with Fairy Tail. Lucy has so much work to do to keep everyone together. It's like herding cats.
Especially and Wendy seems to be the only one that can actually get them to listen when Lucy will not.
Well, and another great series for watching friendships kind of in a toxic way, I will admit, is Black Lagoon.
Yeah.
Because they will die for each other. And Rokoro, or Rock, as he becomes known because they shorten his name, when he comes on, it was just lack of trust, just acquaintance at first, and then he proved himself to Revy and to Dutch, and now it's like everyone be willing to die for each other. And once again, don't think this means you literally have to die for your friends. It just means that if something bad happened to one of your friends, do you feel like you're that type of person? And you don't have to do it emotionally. You can do it however you want. But do you feel in any which way, if anything ever happened to a friend of yours, like your family, would you drop everything to help them?
Yeah, exactly. These are going to be the people that are going to be closer to you in some respects than your actual blood relatives.
Yes.
I mean, I look at Kaiju no Kami, Cruellica, Kain the same way I look at my immediate family, and in some ways, I'm a little closer to them in some aspects and trust them a little more than I will my own family at times.
Well, and I'm the same way. I treat all of our core friends, including Silverquill, I treat as my family. I love them as my family. I get pissed off of them like I do my own family. And we actually joke that Kaiju, I know everybody knows his name is Marcus, but anyways, Kaiju and I, we're like the mom and dad of the group, even though he's unwilling. Silverquill is like the uncle, and then
I'm pretty much like the rambunctious nephew or cousin into the group because I'm the only one that enjoys sports.
And Bloodborne Chrysalid is like the child that will never get the flamethrower he hopes for.
Yeah, he never's going to get that flamethrower no matter how much he wants it.
No. And we're not starting a GoFundMe for it ever.
And do not.
Yes, please don't. But nevertheless, friendship is fun. Friendship is not magic, because when we think friendship is magic, let's just think of the happy, superficial, hyper-focused world of My Little Pony. And I'm not degrading My Little Pony, because in Pony Fighter games, I'm actually a villain. So, I'm there. Because I actually literally am a villain. If you go into the Pony Fighter books, you can actually pull up my picture. But still, they're the only ones I think should be magical. Because if anybody thinks that My Little Pony is realistic,
Yeah, I got some bad news for you.
Yeah.
And if you want further proof, you just have to go on Twitter and look at the community.
Yes, and that's not to say there's anything wrong with it. Actually, I was watching one of Silver Quill's when he was doing this whole movie thing with somebody, and this is where I was going to go with Danganronpa because My Little Pony. So there was this picture of Pinkie Pie throwing something against the wall. It was like another pony, I say person, but another being against the wall. They slide down. I think it was cake. I hope it was cake, but it was bright pink, the same color as blood in Danganronpa.
Yeah. And
so one of the reviewers, because I said the exact same thing as the reviewer said when he kept on playing, was, "Oh my god, is that like Danganronpa?" So, off topic of friendship, but still with friendship, your friends will kill for each other because clearly Pinkie Pie does so. I want to make it my life's mission, and I need your help, to make Silver Quill watch Danganronpa and review it.
Yes, that's something he probably should, considering it will give him a new insight.
Oh, yeah. He's kind of afraid when I mentioned that he should watch it. I was like, but there's so much pink in it. You like pink.
Yes. And you need to get him to watch the second season on Baka.
Oh yeah, we have to start on that. But in closing, friendship sucks. Friendship's fun.
Friendship is something that takes time, but not something that you're going to have to commit a full-time thing to. It's something that's going to be in and out of your life, but at the same time, you're going to always have some kind of connection, somebody there for you. If you don't, there are support groups. There are things out there you can find. Because depression and all that stuff are things that very much happen when you do not have that network of friends. And don't go out there with acquaintances because you don't know. Are they going to use you or not? Find out who the true people in your lives are and that matter. That are going to be like that familial connection that you can have.
And don't think that friends have to be face-to-face either. Goku had a perfect example. He now has a brand new friend in Brawly who's like worlds away.
Yeah.
And they're not face-to-face. And there's so many other friends. Obviously, be hesitant of social media friends because you don't necessarily know if you only know them via social media. But at the same time, if you ever need someone to talk to, you're more than welcome to always message either of us. I don't mind chatting with people. I don't even mind explaining to you what toxic friends are. That's a completely different episode if people are interested. But I have some stories, and we have a lot of anime and movies that can describe toxic friendships.
Oh, comic books in general can just give you a plethora of that.
Well, we should just set comic books on the table and say, look, toxicity. I don't think there's ever been a normal, productive friendship in a comic book. So don't use them as a reference. Go to anime first. Anime.
And with that, drop us some topics in the comment section. Add us on Twitter. Let us know any topics you want. Other than that, we will have another topic up for next week's discussion.
Ooh, I want to do a topic on horror.
It may not be a bad idea.
We can talk about horror in anime or horror in pop culture because there's so much.
Yes. Hell, we can probably even look at something to do a character analysis on if we even think about it.
Ooh, I remember somebody mentioned Jason Voorhees.
Yes. Or even Freddy Krueger.
Speaking of Freddy Krueger, we're going to sign off because we're now going to talk about horror movies, but pop us a line if there's anything else that you want. Otherwise, we'll have a new video, we'll have a new podcast up for you within hopefully the next week.
Yeah.
If not a little bit longer.
Yeah, weather permitting, just like it was with this one. That's all it's going to depend on.
And thank you again for checking in with us, and we look forward to chatting with you next week.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Good night.